Ernest Arite from the African Research Universities Alliance, Madam Winnie Bianyima from UNAIDS, and Professor Petro Tarblanche from Afrigen Biologics. So thanks very much to all of you for joining us and the speakers. I'll hand it over now to Romain for a little bit more of an introduction of our first speaker, and then we'll plunge in. Also, we'll remind all the listeners that we do want to have discussion at the end, and so please put your questions into the chat, and we'll try to open it up and incorporate those as much as we can. Over to you, Professor Romain.
You said you'll introduce him because you're the text candidate. It's okay. It's okay. Please go ahead.
So thanks again, Richard, for filling in. But we're really happy to have you. Richard, as I mentioned, is at WHO, the African Regional Office, and where he is the Chief of Immunization and Vaccine Development and Vaccine Development Program. So, Richard, over to you. We're happy to have you this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Daniel. And good morning, colleagues. Good morning, my fellow panelists. Good morning, Professor Morenzi. So I'm going in the next couple of minutes just to let me share my screen very quickly. Okay. I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the next couple of minutes, I'm going just very quickly to take you through the journey of COVID-19 vaccine rollout in Africa, and when we are expected to immunize people in the region. So very quickly, just as a matter of background, since the first vaccination drive started all over the globe, I think we have so far close to 8.3 billion COVID-19 vaccines that have been administered globally. I think this is one of the most impressive vaccination campaign that the humanity has really enjoyed the last, this is probably the first time in such a short period of time, we have 8 billion vaccine doses that have been administered. I'm going specifically to discuss the situation in Africa and the challenges that we are going through. As you can see on these different maps, it looks like everywhere it's green, which means that the other places on the continent, or on the globe, by the way, have been doing quite well in delivering vaccine. And you can see right on the middle of the maps, Africa, which stands a bit very red, meaning that we are the continent that have the least deployed the vaccine moving forward. So out of the 8.3 billion, the COVAX, which is the initiative led by WHO, Gavi, and CEPI, has been able to support many countries in Africa, including, of course, bilateral donation that have been made as well, and the African Union-led initiative, the AVAT. When we looked at Africa compared to other regions, and again, we are the region that is lagging very much behind. Only 114 million people have been fully vaccinated. As you can see, compared to other WHO region, I think Africa is the least covered, with 8% only of the people have been fully vaccinated, and 12% of the population which have received at least one dose. So we are talking here with a continent that has got close to 1.2 billion people. So the situation, when we looked at what we have received versus what has been so far administered, 400 million, and these are the data that we've compiled at WHO since yesterday, 450 million doses that have been received in the continent, 113 million of the people who fully vaccinated, representing only 8.3% of the African population. And as you see on the left-hand side, in terms of procurement, this vaccine has come from various sources. The WHO-led initiative, the COVAX, has procured around 230 million, with 24 million from the AVAT and close to 180 million from bilateral donation. And the distribution across Africa is quite very unequal, unfortunately. The northern part of the continent, as well as the southern, have been able at least to try to immunize more people than the rest of the regions. 25% of the people in the sub-Saharan, sub-regional Southern Africa have been immunized compared to 21%. And really the sub-region that is lagging behind is the Central Africa sub-region, with only 3% of the population that are fully vaccinated. So there are a certain number of milestones that were set up by WHO in terms of vaccine coverage. 10% of vaccination, fully vaccinated people by the end of September. And the next milestone is 40% of people immunized by the end of the year. So when we looked at these two critical milestones, many countries in the region have missed those milestones. The first one, the vaccination at 10% of the entire population by September. Only at that time, 14 countries by end of September were able to meet that milestone. But as of today, we have 22 countries in the region that have at least be able to vaccinate 10%, fully vaccinated 10% of their population. When we looked at the second milestone, which is the, and it's coming in the next 2 weeks, vaccinating 40% of the population in Africa. So far, we have only 6 countries that have been able to reach that milestone. Those are Seychelles, Mauritius, Morocco, Cabo Verde, Tunisia, and Botswana. So the majority of countries are more likely to miss that target. And I will discuss later on the subsequent target, which is to vaccinate 70% of the population by mid next year. So you can see on your right-hand side of this slide that the vast majority of countries, 31 countries, have yet even to reach the 10%. So we have 17 countries that have vaccinated between 3 to 9% of their population. And unfortunately, 14 countries that have vaccinated less than 2% of their population. So really a long way to go. And I will discuss later on what needs to be done. Now, in terms of projection for reaching the 40% and 70% population, we have done some quick estimation in the region based on the average weekly fully vaccinated people, and then how long it will take for Africa to reach these two critical milestones. So if nothing changed, if the country continue to vaccinate people at the current pace, where we estimate around 6 million people are fully vaccinated per week in the region, we are only going to reach the 40% coverage sometime in May 2023. So we still have 1.5 years to get there. And I'm saying that if nothing is done differently as of today, we are definitely going to miss the 40% coverage and reach it in 1.5 years. So the overall objective of 70% can only be reached in 2023, which means in 2.5 years from now. So I believe that this current conference is really a very, very good opportunity to discuss what are the efforts, what are the things that needs to be done differently in this region to help the continent increase the capacity of vaccine delivery and protect as many people as possible. Otherwise, we are going to continue to lag behind, as you can see this projection. So what has been done so far at WHO, but also working with the different partners, we have tried to map up and to identify those countries that are really struggling a lot, to provide very targeted technical assistance to make sure that these countries can accelerate the pace of their vaccine introduction, identify the different bottlenecks that are preventing them to increase their uptake, but also to find solution. And I think this is what probably is more important during our discussion today, how things can be done differently. So we have been able to visit close to 21 countries, discuss with national authorities, revise the plans, and then see how different strategies can be put in place to accelerate the pace of vaccine delivery, and then getting closer to the different vaccination targets that have been set up by the Director General of WHO, Dr. Tedros. So what we've realized in terms of challenges and bottlenecks, and this is really a kind of very high level summary that I'm providing, we found that there were very much an issue of planning, very inadequate planning. The plan that the country are using are not up to date. Country lacking operational funds to deploy fully the vaccine. Secondly, we found out that the erratic arrival of supply, I think this has been a major problem where some countries have received up to 5 or 6 different vaccine types, making it quite very difficult to deploy those vaccines. And of the late, country receiving vaccine with a very, very short shelf life, which don't give enough time to the country to deploy adequately those vaccines, and most of the time leading to the destruction of some of these products. The use of data has not been adequate enough, but also to inform the decision when it comes to vaccine deployment. And then finally the staff deployment, where in few countries really we've seen the failure to utilize the healthcare workers outside the established system. So what has been some of the cross-cutting area where we believe there is a need for an intensified support? Number one, I think in all of these countries, we tried to discuss with the authorities and then to increase the technical assistance needs, including the HR support, the human resources, to improve the micro-planning, and particularly at the district and most peripheral level, so that the vaccine can be deployed in all the country and not limited in the major urban cities.